I am always happy to be part of any gathering, no matter how small it is, where people get together, those of us who are working in one way or the other, regardless of organization, whichever organization it is, working to smash capitalism, to smash neocolonialism and imperialism, and to witness the dawn of world revolution. We know that capitalism is a global system, and we are not going to be able to build little oases of socialism in hostile desert of capitalism, or little islands of socialism in oceans of capitalism. It's not going to happen. We have to, I think Trotsky recognized that, and Lenin also said we have to smash it, imperialism, at the weakest links in the chain. It is inevitable that the capitalist system is going to collapse. It's inevitable. It's happening, and it's happening before our eyes. What we are witnessing in Tunisia today, and in Algeria, and in the streets of Jordan and Egypt, is the impact, the capitalist, the recession, what is happening in Europe has impacted on the entire so-called third world. And now, especially now we are seeing in the streets of the Arab world. Good? We have regimes in the Arab world that have been for years clients of imperialism, servants of the United States and Britain and France. Tunisia. Tunisia got its independence under a man by the name of Habib Bourguiba. And Bourguiba founded what was known as the Desturian Socialist Party, more in the social democratic tradition. He was a kind of a nationalist. Bourguiba is credited with raising the standard of living in Tunisia. It was, according to, in other liberal sources, others, Marxists, the first country in a part of the world, quote unquote, to give what they call women's emancipation. High level of education, welfare state, state intervention. But then its foreign policy, he built the foreign policy, the regime was quite ambivalent in relation to imperialism. For example, they hosted Arafat and the PLO, but they maintained relations with Israel. And the Israelis went in one time, flew all the way into Tunis and bombed the PLO headquarters and almost killed Yasser Arafat. Tunisia never broke off relationship. They stood with the United States and they had this ambivalent policy, like any other Arab state. They paid lip service to the Palestinian struggle, but then were making secret arrangements and deals with the imperialists and with the Zionists through third parties. Good. Bourguiba was eventually declared unfit to rule. The doctor said that he was mentally unstable, that they removed him. It was a type of a palace coup. And they brought in Zainal Abidin Ben Ali, who was a secret, one of their secret men in the secret, in the intelligence, or what they call in the Arabic language, the Mukhabarat, the secret police. They brought him in. And he carried out some reforms, but this is what we must remember. The reforms that he carried out, or the so-called reforms, was more in keeping with the neoliberal capitalist model. And it created tremendous problems. Tunisia was, you have Tunisia with a high level, they're rated among Tunisian, the high education in Tunisia is counted among the top 17 in the world. Right? And this is the legacy of Bourguiba. That Zainal Ben Ali dismantled a lot of state enterprises and it started privatizing them, handing it over to members of his family, what they call the family, the Tbilisi family, the Trabelsi and all of that. And they started giving these cronies and these clients and all of that. They started getting rid of state assets and privatize it in collaboration with the IMF, the World Bank and all of them. Good. At the same time, unemployment grew, the prices started to escalate and everything, and of course, the people became restless. The first movement that started to show levels of militancy was the Al-Naqda party, or what is known as the Renaissance of Rashid Ghannouchi, the Islamist. But I'm going to mention the term Islamist here in this Tunisian context, that it should not be confused with the so-called Islamists in Afghanistan or those who are running around. They would like to refer to themselves as moderate, like the FIS in Algeria, because both of them happen to be members of the Liberal International, not the Socialist International, the Liberal International. So that tells you something. Getting back to Mr. Zainuddin Ben Ali. He, after dismantling the Legwat Bourguiba and Desturian Party, they changed the name to the Constitutional Democratic Party, or Constitutional Democratic Rally. And they are members of the Socialist International, of the SI, of which the Labour Party in Britain and the New Zealand Labour Party are all members of. Right? But this here is socialist in the border covers, managing capitalism, managing the neoliberal model. Now, Amar Musa said something which is interesting, because my friend here said the Arab League didn't say anything. Well, Amar Musa, the Secretary General of the Arab League, said, quote unquote, the soul of the Arab world is being destroyed by unemployment, poverty, and recession. I am not an expert in Tunisia, like my friend, but what I do know about Tunisia is I happen to, having lived in Libya for 4 years, and having lived under the sanctions, the way I used to get to Libya was to go through Tunisia, because there was no flights allowed to go into Libya. So I would get to Tunisia and take a flight down to Gerald and then go by road into Libya. And I cannot speak for Colonel Gaddafi. I don't know what is his reason for jumping and saying, making his comment on Tunisia. Because one thing I know is that a country's foreign policy is not necessarily an extension of its domestic policies. There are a lot of leaders who spout anti-imperialist rhetoric, but at home are repressive. And I can tell you, sometimes it's good for us to be in the ground and avoid what we read in the news, in the media, whether it's from the left or the right. Because I come from a country that has just recognized the Palestinian state, where the foreign ministers and them take progressive positions in the international forums, but at home is repressive and racist and anti-working class. So I'm saying, do not let the rhetoric of imperialism fool us. Right? I do not know why Mr. Gaddafi made this statement, but I do know this. As a socialist, I know that what the Libyan revolution has put in place, I'm quite certain that what is going to sweep away the Tunisian spark, in the words of Mao Zedong, that can start a prairie fire, will spread to Jordan, and it will engulf Algeria and Egypt and all of them. And I hope it happens fast. But I don't think it's going to engulf Libya, because there's a number of reasons for that. And I'm not here to talk about the Libya revolution, other than to say that the Libyan policy has been different. Libya is a country, unlike Egypt and other countries who went down the neo-capitalist model. Libya refused to bow to the IMF. They refused to bow to the World Bank, right? They aided anti-imperialist struggles. They welcome everybody. They actually set up, they had an international that welcomed everybody, from the indigenous peoples of Bolivia to North America to the Mohawk nations, even Maoris from here in. Right? The ANC was there, the PAC, the IRA, every liberation movement. And the only requirement for membership was you had to be anti-racist, anti-capitalist, and anti-imperialist. And that movement, the imperialists came down in it. Right? You know about the Lockerbie situation. Libya was framed for the Lockerbie. They know who took out the Lockerbie plane, they know it. But Libya was framed for Lockerbie because it was the only country at the time standing against the invasion of Iraq. And Iran and Syria and all of them took opportunistic positions behind the scenes.